but he's going to get into some really stark details. Take a look at this.
You mentioned this in your paper. It is equivalent to using either a partial dose of antibiotics in an antimicrobial or in a bacterial infection, where you then produce superbugs. Is this the kind of example that you're alluding to?
Well, that is a very good parallel. It's also the parallel I'm using actually in the paper we just posted on LinkedIn, which, you know, should be so open for everybody. I mean, it's pure science. Because as you were pointing out, Philip, the thing is, the rule is very simple. I mean, same with antibiotics. Either the antibiotics do not match very well with the bug. That's not good. That's why we are making antibiograms, you know, to first identify which is the germ, and then we choose the antibiotics. We need to have a very good match, otherwise there could be resistance. So when I compare this to the current situation, do we have a good match with our antibodies? No, at this point in time, we don't have a good match anymore, because we have this kind of like almost heterologous variants, so that differ from the original strain. So the match isn't very good anymore, and hence we see people are still protected, but they are already shedding the virus. So that is one thing. The other thing is the quantity, of course. You tell people, you know, you take your antibiotics according to the prescription. Please don't, as soon as you feel well, that doesn't mean that you can stop the antibiotics. Same here. And I give just one example. If you now give people just like one dose, I mean, they are in the process of mounting their antibodies. The antibodies still need to fully mature, etc. So this is a suboptimal situation. We are putting them in a suboptimal situation with regard to their immune protection. And on the other hand, they are in the midst of the war. They are fully attacked by all, you know, by all these kinds of highly infectious variants. So, I mean, it's very clear that this is driving immune escape and will ultimately drive resistance to the vaccines. So my point is, yes, Flip, it's very similar. There is one difference. The virus needs living cells. I mean, if you're driving immune escape, but the guy has no chance to jump on somebody else, who cares? The situation is now different because we are in the midst of a war. There is a high infectious pressure. So the likelihood that an immune escape immediately finds another living cell, that means another host, is very, very high. It's per definition. It's the definition almost of a pandemic.
I mean, he says what I've been saying. You know, we may look back and say Louis Pasteur and antibiotics. I used to say, you know, vaccines aren't the greatest invention of the 20th century, antibiotics are. But now we're looking at the end of the antibiotic age, and if it turns out we only made it like 100 years, we were able to stop infection, but by giving antibiotics, we were teaching bacteria how to get smarter and more powerful, and now they're getting around the antibiotics. We've all seen this, right? The overuse of it in cattle, the overprescription in people. So many scientists and doctors are panicked about it, and most pharmaceutical companies have stopped making all antibiotics because they're saying that the bacteria are mutating so fast now that any product they go into development on, by the time they get it out in the market, the bacteria is already figuring its way around it. Well, how do you avoid that? You got to kill it dead. You got to win the battle. If you got the right weapon, it's got to kill it dead immediately. But what he's saying, just like not taking all of your prescription, all of that antibiotics, which I never really understood that. Why do I got to keep taking it? I'm feeling better. Now I recognize, because you don't want your body to turn into a mutation factory that is going to turn this, what was just a, you know, benign bacteria or just mildly infectious, into a deadly killer, like we now see SIRS, MRSA and CRS and these different things that are killing hundreds of thousands of people in our hospitals now all the time. This vaccine could do that because it's having a suboptimal response, just like, you know, an unmatched antibiotic. And what he's saying, if the vaccine is matched up directly with this virus and you've gotten both your shots, you've mounted defense, it'll do a good job at beating it. But most of you aren't going to have gotten to the full effect of the vaccine by the time you're already under attack. And so therefore, you're going to have this suboptimal response, and now you are going to be responsible for turning this 0.4% death rate virus, which is a nothing burger essentially, except for those in a really high risk category. Now you're going to start raising the risk for everybody and turning it into a deadly killer. Let's get deeper into it.
It raises a simple question that somebody has put in front of us here, which is, it's perfectly common sense. what do we do?
That question is very easy. I mean, we need to do a better job when we are confronted with situations that seem very dramatic, like, an epidemic. Our generation has not, been living in times where there are epidemics or pandemics. And so we immediately take action and jump on the beast with the tools we have, instead of analyzing what is really going on. And one thing that I thought was extremely interesting was, and it's something that was not really understood, we know that a number of people are asymptomatically infected. So they are infected, but they don't develop severe symptoms. Of course, they can have some mild symptoms, upper respiratory disease, whatever. So the question is, what exactly happens with those folks that they can eliminate the virus? They eliminate the virus. They will transmit it. They will shed it for like a week or so, and then they eliminate this. You could say, yeah, of course we know that antibodies eliminate. Oh, wait a minute. The antibodies come later. You have first the surge of, shedding of the virus, and it's only afterwards that you see, a moderate and short-lived raise of antibodies. So the antibodies cannot be responsible for elimination of the virus. So what is responsible for elimination of the virus? Luckily enough, we have a number of brilliant scientists, independent brilliant scientists, that have now increasingly been showing, and there is increasing evidence, that what in fact is happening is that NK cells are taking care of the virus. So NK cells, the virus gets into these epithelial cells and starts to replicate, but NK cells get activated and they will kill the cell, in which the virus tries to replicate. So I was saying that the virus needs to rely on a living cell. So you kill that cell, it's gone, it's all over. So we have the solution in the pathogenesis, because some people eliminate it.
Absolutely.
Right? Problem.
All right, so this is really, it's amazing, because what he's talking about is something that we've been discussing. One of the things that we keep hearing is the vaccine creates more antibodies than the natural infection does. Therefore, this is the first vaccine ever that's better than natural infection. It's simply not true because of what he's describing to you here. The innate immune system you have has got something that vaccine is not doing. That vaccine is making antibodies, which he says is the after effect. That's the last part. Like, that's the cleanup crew. The real butt kickers, the first line of defense, is already in your natural immune system. It's called NK cells, natural killer cells. Now, what these are essentially, and there's a lot of science now looking at this, are these sort of cells that float around. We now believe it's about 10% of your white blood cells. They're these lymphocytes, and they're always monitoring your blood. They're bumping against all the other cells and making sure, oh yeah, that's a healthy cell, just checking it out. They're just walking around, they're like armed guards, making sure that everything's okay. But as soon as a cell is infected with cancer or with a virus, it knows it. And then it has this amazing ability to, get in there and discover, through the interaction with interferons. But it says, oh, wait a minute, this is an infected cell. So it goes in, grabs a hold of that cell, and immediately puts out some deadly goo that penetrates the cell and kills it dead. This is what has been happening for everybody that's not vaccinated, that is out there. All of our children, our babies and our children have amazing natural killer cells. Young people, this is that humoral immunity that the elderly no longer have. This is your innate immune system. It's running and coursing through every vein in your body. So if you're terrified of this virus, just know you have this amazing natural killer, these power warriors that are going to go in and just kill the cells dead. Only after that, then, does your body now get into an antibody production space to just finally clean up the last little bit. But science thinks antibodies were the greatest part of this. They're dead wrong. That is the weakest part of the immune response, especially to this coronavirus. They are not inspiring your NK cells. They're coming in for the after effects, saying, see, we got more of the cleanup crew than you did. I don't want a bunch of maids and plumbers. I want the warriors fighting for me. But this vaccine doesn't do that. And now it starts getting really, really scary. Get ready.